I'm the fucking Communist Party and you're a little minion.
We're worried about models becoming information gatekeepers.
The hive mind can use and leverage the models.
You're just basically making yourself Xi Jinping.
Travis Good is the CEO of Ambient, the new layer 1 proof-of-work network built for AI. Think mining inference on a 600 billion parameter model with machine intelligence as currency. Alongside him is Alex Good, aka Good Alexander, a sharp strategist in attention trading and crypto narrative flow who knows how markets move when capital meets conversation. Together, they show up where AI infrastructure meets crypto's attention economy. High stakes, high velocity, and built for the next era.
You actually might also be committing a crime.
Welcome back to The Roll Up.
This is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy it.
Alex, Travis, welcome to the show. I kind of want to just start by saying I'm really excited because you guys both have announcements to talk about. Alex, maybe you could start.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of been alluding to this on Twitter for a long time, but you know, I'm building a protocol called Post Fiat. It's a fork of XRP, and it's basically an AI-enabled hive mind. So I'm going to be talking about that at Token. So I don't want to fully spoil my speech, but essentially my thesis is that so I used to work at Palantir. And Palantir, as you guys are probably aware, it's it's both a meme stock, but it's also a business reality. They're growing at 48% a year. They're driving massive incremental revenue. And if you listen to Karp about how they're actually doing that, the story is that LLMs out of the box are not very useful. They don't generate good investment intelligence. I think a lot of people have probably realized this in crypto. You've watched AI 16Z, you've kind of watched, the Truth Terminal, and there's this massive sense of disappointment that these things like Cerebro or whatever, these things don't make money out of the box. And at this point, everyone in crypto has become completely black-pilled on AI. And so rather than a lot of crypto projects which are trying to kind of say, okay, I'm going to use a blockchain to sell AI products, we're using kind of AI products to power up a retail hive mind. And so that sort of means you have a large number of, retail investors or people or even potentially sophisticated investors who are dealing with the protocol. You're using AI tools to basically turn them into an intelligence network, like a Palantir style ontology enabled intelligence network, so that you kind of have the power of an ontology based system a la Palantir, except it's possessed by something like the XRP army. So it's sort of like imagine if you took, weapons, military weapons grade tech and gave it to the chimps. It's like that meme, you're handing the AK to the chimps. And so, it's an L1. So, we're kind of making some opinionated changes, to XRP. So it's a fork of XRP. There are a lot of benefits to that. I mean, I think the interesting thing about it is that if you look at crypto and you're okay, what are different protocols built for? Ethereum is sort of built for DeFi applications. Bitcoin is sort of based for money. XRP is a messaging system. It's a Swift replacement. So it's basically, what Swift is essentially a plain text messaging system that allows banks to send messages to each other. And the idea of XRP was that you need capital collateral to make that messaging system work. And so, the observation is that we are all interacting with messaging systems every day via chatbots, right? So you are basically talking to ChatGPT one-on-one. The powerful thing about, building an on-chain messaging system is that it turns ChatGPT into a multiplayer game, right? So there's a lot of people interacting with a messaging system, which is basically an AI agent, collecting information, mapping it into a correctly designed ontology, which is built on an SDK on the system, and then basically compounding capital for the group, right? So that's kind of the first layer, and then the second layer is that basically it's very fast and efficient. Right. So users don't want to pay 80 cents a transaction. And it's also very kind of network efficient. So if you look at Solana, for example, Solana burns $16 million a day. So you can generate extremely fast finality, and you could send messages on Solana, but it's extremely expensive, right? So it's kind of like Ethereum is charging a really, really high amount per transaction. And then even if you go onto Base or even if you go onto an L2, if you look at like Arbitrum inflation, it's massive. It's like over $100 million of dilution a year to pay for like, high throughput transactions on ETH. Or in Solana, you're paying it on the L1, and basically the net effect is that validators are dumping the token. XRP is like an interesting compromise where you're like, okay, like there's a bit of centralization, except you have a really, really high performance messaging system, which is what you actually need with all these blockchain primitives to run a sort of Palantir style ontology with like a large group of individuals. I think the other like pill for Post Fiat is that, if you think about every AI system, they're all anthropomorphic. So the idea is basically like the idea of vibe coding, for example, is like there's a human designing something. But if the premise of AI is that basically AI is going to become smarter than human beings, then all of these systems have the wrong UX, right? Like basically every AI system right now is like the human telling the system what to do. And we're basically paying ChatGPT or Anthropic money to basically do what we say. But if AI becomes smarter than us, right, it should actually be the opposite. The AI system should be able to pay the users to do shit, right? So like, let's say you have almost like an AI central intelligence agency that is generating directives, which the users wouldn't ever be able to come up with. So like when I'm speaking at Token about, apes together strong, like the 2021 retail movement kind of fizzled out because it's just a bunch of dudes on Reddit interacting with centralized systems, right? There's centralized Reddit, so they banned RWSB, and then there's centralized exchanges like Robinhood, where they literally shut the exchange down and like blew up all the GameStop traders, right? So the question is like, okay, like how do you take AI systems, basically turn it into a commanding officer for a very large group of distributed investors and allow them to to work together? And like at a very high level, like you're like, okay, like what's going on in society right now, right? Society is basically, people are just running around saying like AI is going to steal your job. Like you have to hyper gamble because your only way to make it in this society is to basically buy meme coins. And I'm like, okay, like that's very uninspiring, right? Because most people are just going to lose their money. Most people are going to get wrecked. There are a couple success stories, but in aggregate, like, there's some like interesting statistics. If you talk to people at exchanges, they're like, on average, like an airdrop that gets deposited into a centralized exchange is lost within 2 weeks on perpetual swap trading. Like people just lose all their money, right? And so like Murad kind of had this like, really, really interesting pitch. He's like, look, if you trade too much, you will lose all your money. So stop trading and believe in something. Like that's sort of what he said. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting, but it doesn't go nearly far enough, right? Like you actually need collective action. You need to have basically an AI system taking a group of people, powering them up, and allow them to basically operate as an effective command and control hive mind. So like you literally turn the chimpanzees into like an effective like Planet of the Apes style like army, right? So that's to me is like what's really exciting is like, okay, like crypto is at its core, it's a way for a group of people economically to have a stake in a collective ownership. So the actual like use of a token is being like, okay, we're all on the same team and we're going to all make money. Like that is the point to me of crypto. And so that's sort of like, what I'm building. It's like an AI powered version of what we're already all doing.
Doing this on blockchain rails gives ownership to the apes. And so this is ultimately going to allow us to coordinate with one another, but also it flips the principal agent so that now the AI is the principal. It's directing us as the agents. Okay, this is fascinating. We'll dig into this in a little bit more in a moment. But Travis, I want to give you a chance to also announce your protocol, which is also very exciting. Also AI. This one's proof of work. So please give us the...
Sure. So mine is Ambient. It's an upcoming L1. Ambient.xyz is our website. I'm Iridium Eagle on X if you want to follow me, or you can follow ambient.xyz. And, we come from a very similar set of premises from what Alex is talking about, which is that we are being owned by the AI companies rather than the reverse. Like if you look at the market cap of all of these companies, it's essentially premised on them vertically integrating and cannibalizing all industry in the world today. Like that's how OpenAI gets so high. That's why they keep raising hundreds of billions of dollars. It's because it's assumed that they're going to take all the data that we put into them, and they are then going to churn that and produce models which replace all of us. And that's a really scary kind of future that we don't want to live in. And so we want to build with Ambient an infrastructure layer where retail and the regular investor can actually own AI and own the progress of the fundamental infrastructure that's powering our upcoming economy. So as you mentioned, that's proof of work. That involves us rewarding miners who are owners and operators of our network, who are providing core ChatGPT-like services to the participants. So we've got a very low overhead way of doing what's called verified inference, where we prove mathematically that all the text that you got out of this model is actually generated by the network model. We just run one model on our network. And then the system's spare capacity is continuously improving that model so that the network is investing in itself so that it keeps up with the world of closed source. And to power the agentic economy, to make a lot of what Alex is talking about possible, we think we need this layer where you've got censorship-resistant, permissionless AI as an infrastructure service that people can just own. And we call it Ambient because it's everywhere. And it's something that you can just tap into. Agentic services, collectives can tap into it, and it's completely trustless. Right now, OpenAI is, trust me, bro, we all know how it worked out with Anthropic, where everyone was getting screwed on Claude inference for over a month because they had some bugs that were, compromising the quality of inference people got. Well, Ambient totally avoids that. It's permissionless, it's trustless, it's credibly neutral. So there's something you can just tap into and use. And, this is something that is drawn from my insights into the field of crypto AI, watching it from 2017 onward, where we got the crypto economics of distributed systems wrong in crypto AI. And we've just doubled and tripled down on that ever since. The idea is that GPU miners are not economically aligned with proof of stake networks. If in proof of stake, the bag holders, the early investors, are getting rewarded. So then if you're a miner and you have this high CapEx and OpEx, it's really difficult for you showing up onto a network to want to mine on that network, because what do you get? You're not the owner or operator of that network. You're just getting pennies on the dollar, tiny transactional rewards. And it's not enough to keep you going, which is one of the big reasons that all these crypto AI plays keep failing. It's because, you're just rewarding the investors, and your reward mechanism, your economic incentive mechanism, is the core thing of crypto. If you design that economic incentive mechanism wrong, then you don't have decentralized economic coordination. It's not possible. And so, our view is that you have to reward the people who are doing the work of the network directly, give them inflation-based rewards, also give them transaction rewards, and make them the controllers of the network, so that the people who have skin in the game are the ones who are providing the quality of service to the users. So that's one of the core observations of Ambient, and basically everyone has done that wrong since 2017. And there are groups who claim that they're proof of work who are very much proof of stake. I think proof of authority also falls into this category. We could talk about that. But what we've done is we've forked Solana. We're converting it from proof of stake to proof of work. And the entire point of our chain is to provide scaled up machine intelligence. So the only other thing I'll mention is that, if you look at the design space, again, people have chosen to go after what I call model marketplaces. So the idea is, I'm going to provide like 250 different models to people, and they're just going to come, they're going to use those, and it'll be great. Another version of this is like, we're going to create a network where people will train like thousands of models, and you can run any of those models. And it sounds really cool on paper. And don't get me wrong, I love some of these ideas, but if you imagine from a miner's perspective, this is like your worst nightmare, because as a miner, like you have to worry about continuous operation. Like if you're not spinning those GPUs all the time, you're essentially losing money. And so the design of a model marketplace basically guarantees you're going to lose money. Imagine, a user chooses model number 100 of 250. It's a 600 gigabyte model. And then you as the miner have to go download that model. That takes 20 minutes. You have to load it up. That's like another 10 minutes. And like you're deeply in the red by the time you're actually serving somebody's request. So first of all, and then to validate that, everyone else has to do the same thing. So first of all, like that just doesn't work economically. And secondly, like it's a really bad experience for the consumers because they're waiting like 45 minutes, for their inference request to come back. So Ambient flips the script. We're proof of work, as I mentioned, but we're focused on a very limited number of models. Right now, that is a large model, which we're calling Ambient, and a very small model called Ambient Mini. And both of these will be mineable. And I guess our announcement is that our testnet, which puts all of these pieces together, is coming in 2 weeks. It's coming very soon. And we're going to let miners sign up, big and small. And I think it'll be really fun for everyone.
The wait is over. The Talus testnet is live. Be part of the revolution. Join now at testnet.talus.network.
Relay, low fees, lightning speed, and the power of multi-chain at your fingertips. Instant multi-chain payments. Choose any token on any chain. 75 plus networks supported. More than 5 million users. 8 billion plus volume processed. 70 million plus transactions, fast, reliable, everywhere. Start swapping today, only on Relay.
Hibachi, provable. Trade perps with speed and security. Earn rewards. Visit hibachi.xyz. Trading on fire.
Just to put this in perspective for people, the models that you guys are launching, right? Ambient and Ambient Mini. Ambient being like a bigger model, much more thoughtful, much more, a lot more depth when it comes to its answers. Mini, a lot faster.
Yeah.
Okay. The Hive mind that you describe, Alex, can use and leverage the models that Travis, your protocol
That's right. These are synergistic things.
Yeah. So exactly. So the problem with the Hive mind is you're like, okay, originally we were running the Hive mind on Discord, and then we're like, okay, people submitted a bunch of alpha. I'm like, I can't have this information on Discord. I can't have it in Google Docs. Google is training on all of this crap. So if you're trying to build a proprietary Hive mind, you actually need scalable private LLM infrastructure. And running that yourself, it's doable, but it's like a nightmare, right? And I'm like, okay, like what would be far better, especially, okay, so a lot of, like you might imagine, like as you're listening to this Hive mind thing, it's like, okay, trading compliance, that's an issue, right? With Ambient, you can on Post Fiat, like let's say someone submits some useful information, right? And you're like, okay, I need to say provably that I have screened this information for MMPI, because if the SEC calls me up, they said you made a ton of money trading, SUI into some data announcement, like where did this information come from? Did you have a compliance process? I need to be able to provide answers. Now, the cool thing about Ambient, like Google will just tell that, like, if you put it in a Google Doc, the regulator will just get the information without a subpoena or anything, right? And this happens all the time. This is actually like, if you look at like the history of financial institutions, a lot of it is just like Bloomberg sharing information with the regulator because it's like a permissioned platform that is well within their rights to share that information with, and the banks get fined like billions of dollars. And so with Ambient, you're like, okay, like I can prove that I ran a compliance process on this date. You sent this information. I ran this LLM query that basically asked, like, did this information contain, MMPI? And then did it get passed into my agent? Like a lot of people don't understand the compliance angle with agents. Like a lot of people are crypto native. I used to, work at hedge funds, so I'm more familiar with, I guess, compliance processes and like, and I guess Palantir, obviously, but you need to basically make sure the information going into your trading strategy is not MMPI. Because if it goes in, like let's say somebody shares like illicit information about the Swiss central bank and it goes into your AI agent, and then somebody talks to the AI agent and trades on that information, they don't even realize that they're trading on MMPI, but they are. So it's kind of like a poison the well situation. So Ambient is like super cool because like any sort of regulated financial interaction can be verified. You can prove it, but you also have custody of the proof. So it's like, you know, it allows like more trustless interaction. It allows more private interaction, which is important for keeping the edge together. And it allows like more compliant interaction so that if something does happen, the people who are interacting with this tool aren't like, yo, like Post Fiat sounds cool, but I don't want to go to jail, right? Like we're kind of very much solving for like, you want to be part of a hive mind, but the hive mind is part of the system. We want to do everything legally and make sure that everybody who's taking part in this can make money in a way that's like actually like, you know, more legit. Like, you know, you see people in pump fund like going and doing crimes for revenue. Yeah. Like the problem is like, what if you own the creator token and then someone like does crime in order to like pump the token? You actually might also be committing a crime. Right. Because then you're like profiting financially from somebody's, you know, like illegal actions.
Yeah. So makes you like an accessory to the crime.
Yeah. So like, you know, to me, but I mean, I think the really profound thing, like, you know, kind of like the opinionated view that Travis and I had when we got into this space is I'm like, okay, right now, there are kind of two interesting things. Like number one, we learned about BitTensor, right? And we're like, okay, BitTensor says it's the AI Bitcoin. Is it a proof of work coin? And it's like, it's kind of proof of work because they're subnets and people are doing things, but at the end of the day, it's not actually proof of work. And I was like, okay, like there is no competitor. There like Caspa is the only kind of like reasonable proof of work coin other than Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay, like TSMC back in 2017 was 10% Bitcoin mining. Now it's sub 2%. If you look at CoreWeave used to be an ETH miner. Right? CoreWeave was an ETH miner. That's why like Vance at Framework got so fucking rich, is because he like invested in CoreWeave when it was like an ETH miner, and then they pivoted into AI and just absolutely crushed it. Right. And so like with Ambient, you're like, okay, like if we all think that the future of work is AI, why wouldn't the future of proof of work also be AI? Right. So it's like in my mind, like what, like, you know, back in 2017, Travis is like, I want to make an AI proof of work. And I'm like, that's very unwise. Like nobody knows what this is. I don't know if AI is real. It's gonna like you know, like everyone is like, no one's going to know what this is. But then like 2023 happened and I'm like, yo, Travis, like, I think it's time, man. Like, like, and so he did it. And, so yeah, I think that's like the Ambient, it's like, if you look at the CapEx of the world, it's all going into AI data centers. Yeah. So in my opinion, like the hash, like even if nothing that I'm saying is correct, like even if you think everything that I'm saying is bullshit, the hash power of Ambient is still going to go parabolic, right? Because like as a primitive, like a proof of work coin that is leveraging all of the electricity and CapEx output of the current economy is going to necessarily get more hash power than existing like Bitcoin ASICs. So to me, I'm like, okay, like this is a sick bet. What excites me about Post Fiat is like a little bit different. I'm like, okay, like I think my sort of opinion, like when I learned about XRP, originally I was running an advertising technology company. I discovered XRP because I was running affiliate ads to Binance. And I realized like I learned a lot about like retail investors who are buying XRP. I'm like, okay, like, you know, I spent a lot of time trading XRP. I made a lot of public calls predicting XRP prices. And I sort of realized I'm like, okay, like fundamentally, XRP is a form of financial enfranchisement that a group of people are like buying into the system. And the token itself, both Bitcoin and XRP, are these like sociocultural movements, right? And like that's like what really interested me in crypto when Murad started articulating it. I'm like, okay, these are sociocultural movements, but unfortunately, most sociocultural movements are cults, and actually cults like are not bullish in my opinion. Cults take advantage of their holders. And so my question, or like the inspiring question of like what I want to work on is like, okay, like how can I make a system where the median expectancy of a participant is positive instead of negative, right? You're like Hyperliquid. It's like, okay, like how can Hyperliquid be a movement when their average customer just gets wrecked, right? Like, okay, like you can hold the hype token, but then if you want to make money, you just can't use the product. And I'm like, okay, that's like, it's kind of sad. Like exchanges are cool, but like, and I think they're important and they're going to go up, but they aren't like something I want to spend my life working on, right? I'm like, okay, like I've seen Palantir. I've seen that it can completely transform business outcomes. I've seen that, basically it can transform military outcomes and intelligence outcomes. Why wouldn't we want the same sort of like level of technological sophistication to actually be doled out to like a collective? Like that to me was like an interesting outcome. Cause like everyone's like, oh, I want to be long populism. I'm like, okay, well, I don't really feel excited about taking other people's money. I want to create a system that allows people in the system to get rich.
Yeah, and that's actually what's really exciting to me about Post Fiat. As much as Alex talks about doom, he's creating the ultimate like virtuous cycle, human in the loop system where people can collectively benefit from collective action, and the whole system is designed for that rather than being extractive. And they can use trustless infrastructure like Ambient, but they're also goal directed as a community. And there are facilities for that I think, frankly, society should have built. And Alex is building like a trustless operating system for society in some level. And I think that all the primitives you're building could be used for like basic social coordination in a way that's not being done today.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of synergies between our protocols. Like, obviously we talk every day. But yeah, I mean, like the interesting crypto protocol, like you guys probably remember, I was like going on ThreadGuy talking about like WorldCoin and stuff like that. And I think WorldCoin is like one of the few coins which is kind of envisioning a societal level outcome from AI, but it's like a really weird vision. Sam Altman's vision is basically like, you're a goat farmer in Nigeria. You like scan your eyeballs with this like orb and we'll give you a bunch of tokens. And then eventually we're going to give you AI tokens from OpenAI. Like that's sort of like the bull case. Like, basically when Altman is articulating the thesis, he's like, we need universal basic income for everybody because we need to basically distribute intelligence evenly to the world. Like that's like his vision, which is kind of like actually like socialism, right? Yeah. It's basically, I'm the fucking Communist Party and you're a little minion. And I'm going to give you like some crumbs of OpenAI's like system, which is actually just like self-dealing to my equity structure. Yeah. And I'm like, you're just basically making yourself Xi Jinping, right? Like that's your vision. That's the vision of WorldCoin. And I'm like, yeah, maybe it happens, but I'm like, dude, that is like so utterly uninspiring. And I'm like, okay, like I believe in capitalism. I believe that people should be able to work and be part of a system. And I believe people want to do that. Like when I interact with people in the community, they're here because it's like, okay, like I know AI is coming. I know it's going to mess up my life in unpredictable ways. And I want to somehow avoid that. Yeah. And I don't want to just gamble. I don't want to just like go buy 100x Hyperliquid perps and hope for the best. Right. Like that was sort of like my, thinking with this project.
So how will people contribute to this hive mind and provide work and they'll provide work and then they'll be paid and they'll be compensated for it. What is the work that they will provide?
So there's this thing called the task node. We're refactoring it and launching it in the next couple of weeks. The first version was built on XRP and now we're on a test net. Okay. So we're moving the chain.
So you originally built this on XRP and then you moved it into your own protocol.
Yeah, I knew I was going to fork XRP. It's just that I needed to build it on something to start out with. We're making some major changes to XRP in order to obviously intuitively like a system designed for Swift and banks needs a couple cosmetic changes to work effectively. But I think that would like some of the changes that we're making are relatively important on the L1 level. But to answer your question, there's a DApp that interfaces with our chain. Mm-hmm. So basically like you're a podcaster, you're an expert on podcast, media equipment, video editing. So let's say you're like talking about your engagement on X versus YouTube versus Twitch versus Pump Fun. Like let's say you put this stream on Pump Fun. The two tickers you would basically be doing tasks for what's called the task node, where you upload your context into a Proton doc and it says, hey, you should interview Alex Good and Travis Good. And then you'll do it and you'll earn rewards, right? You'll verify it. You'll post a link. You'll get your rewards. And what that system does is I don't know if you're familiar with Bridgewater, Ray Dalio's hedge fund. Yeah. So they have a system called DOTS. And it basically says, okay, you are credible in this area. And over time, you build credibility in an area. So like, a crypto venture capitalist is one area. There's a guy who built like an entire bakery using our task node. He basically did task after task. There's another guy building a yoga studio. So for example, the alpha layer is like, once you've proved like you're a YouTuber, you would be getting questions about Google stock. Okay. The guy running a bakery would get questions about Hershey's stock. Okay. The guy running a yoga studio would get questions about Lululemon stock. It basically figures out, what you personally are capable of contributing, and then it aligns your efforts, like from an alpha perspective, with providing information to the network. Now, information is level 1, and then engagement is level 2. Now, we're all familiar with like Kaido slop, right? Like just people like commenting and everything like that. The sort of engagement layer is like, okay, like you're a credible YouTuber. If there's content, like let's say we have like a big long Google position, and there's some product release that comes out. Let's say it's like, video generation. Your task wouldn't just be like, comment under Google stock or like shill a ticker. It's like your task would be like, write a thoughtful piece emphasizing Google's new product launch in video, because people would listen to you because you're a podcaster and like you do it. And it's like Kaido, except it actually doesn't feel like spam to the user. Mm-hmm. The user is like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Maybe you actually do the work, and it's not like just spamming people's attention. It's basically harvesting people's attention and directing it to narratives, right? So it's like an information machine at layer 1 and then a narrative machine on layer 2. And if you combine those two machines together, then you have like a capital compounding machine. Yeah. Because we know for a fact there are basically two things that drive markets. Like one is the multiple, which is fundamentals, and number 2 is multiple expansion, which is narrative, right? So like you capture both of those stacks, you qualify individuals, and then you basically do both of those levels. Like that's how the alpha machine works.
Blockchain shortcuts, templates, and widgets launch without friction for builders by builders. Visit enso.build. Asset management redefined, built on ERC 7621. Standardize how you launch, manage, and trade on-chain baskets. This is Alvara, the standard for on-chain asset management.
Got it. So that's how people can contribute. And you said you're refactoring that and people can start to contribute in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had to refactor it because like people were actually providing too much alpha, and we built it on Google Docs and Discord to start out with. And we're like, okay, like this is getting more real than we thought. We need a compliance process. We need, we rebuilt in Signal, Proton docs. We're building a formal DApp, getting in the MetaMask app store, integrating with Phantom Wallet, like, because basically it needs to be like private and custodial. And ideally, once Travis's testnet is live, we're going to change our models to be private models because we don't want all this information going to ChatGPT either.
Yeah, that's right. And so we have the same approach on Ambient. Like it's, you can be fully private if we want. We run our verified inference algorithm, which is very low overhead, inside a trusted execution engine so that it's end-to-end encrypted. And yeah, the services like Alex's can benefit from that because you can have a big model that runs and no data is ever saved.
But there's something I should say. So we do have a validator onboarding process for our testnet right now. And so like XRP, they basically have this foundation in Switzerland. It's called the XRPL Foundation. And there's a qualitative process that they run for their validators. Our network's a little different. We use AI directly to qualify a validator. Right. So for example, like Roger Ver is a very famous person, but he's on a couple sanctions lists. Right. So he wouldn't qualify as a validator. So we have like this basically AI-based system that runs you through all the AI models and says, okay, are you a person of interest? Are you a valuable institution? So we have like a link to our validator onboarding. And if you get on our testnet validator list, there are rewards. Like, so like if we have a bunch of, institutions kind of coming on as validators, it's very similar to other like HBAR or other networks where you get rewards for being a validator. It's obviously not like Solana-esque, but in XRP, they don't pay the validators at all. Like, so it's a little shady, like actually, or it's not shady, but it's like, it's suboptimal. Because essentially there are universities on the XRP validator list where they've received like $10 million donations from Ripple. So it creates like a nexus of centralization. That's the critique from the crypto community. Whereas like on our network, I, for example, only qualify under XAI. So XAI is the only model that thinks that I'm like legit enough to be a validator. So I'm wrecked, right? So I can't be a validator. Like
on your own protocol.
Yeah. So it's like, it's very hard to manipulate because it's actually quite expensive to bribe the AI companies. So in order to actually like manipulate the Post Fiat validator list, you would need to like get someone inside of like Anthropic, a person inside of DeepSeek, a person inside of Google. I probably shouldn't be giving instructions about how it is,
but it's very, you can say that because it's very difficult, more difficult than just getting one person inside of one foundation.
Yeah. Or like interacting with Ripple and going to all their events and being and clubbing with Brad Garlinghouse and be like, bro, I want to be a validator. It's like, yeah.
I got you, dude.
But like in Ripple, it doesn't matter. Like it's also like kind of genius because like, you know, there's a famous Ripple speech where they call it the best incentive is no incentive. Like there's something people don't understand about, you know, I was bull posting XRP for the longest time. And I'm like, the thing that people don't understand about this chain is that it costs like $500,000 a year to secure. It's so cheap. It's the most scoped down system you could imagine. Whereas like Solana, I told you, it costs like $16 million a day. Right. And so like their process, as much as you criticize it, is just the most capital efficient blockchain you could like ever think of. Right. So if you can apply AI to basically reduce the cost of building a coherent validator list, you're basically piggybacking off of like the most efficient economic system in crypto that everyone hates because it's not programmatic and it's like overly centralized. Yeah. So with Post Fiat, we're like, okay, we're building a system so that I'm throwing away the keys and like I can't even get on my own validator list. Yeah. And we're using basically AI in order to like affect that. You know, there are some like, I think this property, like people are starting to appreciate this property because like, you know, things like Mira, for example, they launch and they're like, okay, we're realizing that all these AI models can kind of coalesce on a truth. Like that's their entire protocol. Like that's just like how we choose validators. Like it's not our entire protocol, but I think it's like an interesting property of LLMs that like basically if you kind of think about from a currency level, like everyone talks to ChatGPT. Like girls are like getting relationship advice. You know, people are getting quote unquote one-shotted by ChatGPT. There's like a level of trust that builds over time with ChatGPT with like individual decisions. Like the second layer is like people haven't yet really made money trading with ChatGPT. They tried to, but they haven't made money yet. So like the second level of trust is like an AI system is helping me compound my capital. That's like the second level of trust. Like, okay, Thread guy made me money. Ansem made me money. Now I trust him because he called Coinbase. He called Solana. Like now the next thing that he talks about, I'm actually going to listen to and I'm going to buy it. Like level 2 is basically trust in financial decisions. Like level 3, which I think people are starting to intuit, is that actually like LLMs can create trust in currency systems, right? So you're like, okay, a validator list or a consensus mechanism. Like rather than having a corrupt human that can easily be bribed, you have language models. And you're sort of seeing like, I think in Albania, they have like a minister who's an AI, right? And so that's like the beginning of like a much larger trend, especially in countries that are like failed states. Right. You know, you could imagine a world where you're like, this is so bad. Like my base case with fiat is so bad that I might as well opt into an algorithmic system if it's better. So I think that's like, we're very, very early on that in terms of narrative because we're still like not even at level 2, right? We're still at level 1 where people are getting relationship advice from ChatGPT. We're not at level 2 yet where people are getting financial advice and succeeding with ChatGPT. Like once we get through level 2, then we're going to go to level 3. And that's when like crypto as an asset class is going to start like indexing more into the AI narrative because people like at its core, crypto is a gold comp. Like gold is basically a collective hallucination that this shiny rock can store value from like a 16th century farmer and transmute it into the present. It's what George Soros calls a fertile fallacy, right? You believe that gold stores value, so therefore it does. Like for crypto to begin to have this sort of value hallucination property, you need to integrate it with like a new system. And so that's sort of like, longer term, that's like what interests me is like, how can we redefine currency to be like, like I call it post fiat, because like fiat is based on human control. Fiat is like, you told me what to do, you put a gun to my head and I did it. Like the interesting frame with AI is like, okay, like actually there's canonical truths that we can agree on as a function of all human knowledge historically combined together, right? If we take the collective sum of all human knowledge and all training data and can make deterministic decisions about whether Alex should be on a validator list or Ansem should be or Roger Ver, like people can opt into the social consensus mechanism without trust, right? So it's like this like completely new definition of currency that in the long run, I think is going to get traction because people are like sick of the government. Like, I don't think people, I mean, like actually like my contrarian view is that gold is like way overhyped. Like, I actually don't think people want to go back to the medieval ages. Like if you look at like tech adoption curves, it doesn't actually make any sense, right? It's like, if you look at like Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin is on the lows versus gold on a vol weighted basis. Like gold is winning right now. I actually think that's wrong because of this. Like, I think that basically we're going to opt into digital money. We're going to opt into AI money because the world is digital and the world is powered by AI. That's sort of my simple macro bet.
Yeah. And, I would say from Ambient perspective, like we're worried about models becoming information gatekeepers. If you ask ChatGPT, how is the Trump administration doing? Do you really trust that it's going to give you an objective answer if the administration has leaned on them? Like, probably today, is that going to be true all times in the future? And so what we want to do is create a world where there is AI infrastructure that has been trained and fine-tuned out in the open, where all the flaws and biases of the models are very visible to people, and you sort of know how the sausage is being made. We start with some like open weights models, like we're running GLM 4.5 at the moment. But then ideally, what we want to do is run the same infrastructure flywheel that OpenAI does, where they subsidize their training runs with all the usage, with all the inference that people do on their existing models. So that's how we want to bootstrap. And we think that you can probably trust a lot of things about even closed models today, but that's not going to hold in the future. And that we need a hedge.
There's like a pretty interesting macro phenomenon, right? Like if you look at OpenRouter, 98% of the spend is to US models. Like people are just buying Claude and XAI, but like a decent percentage of the token use is actually from Chinese models, like maybe 30 to 40%, because the Chinese are heavily subsidizing the use of Chinese models in order to promote Chinese cultural values, right? So if you talk to DeepSeek and you're like, what happened in Tiananmen Square? It's like, what are you talking about, bro? Right? Now, but the Chinese models are like really, really strong open source models. And the reason why they're doing that is basically free marketing for their view of the world, right? But there's like, and then Mistral or the European models, like nobody actually uses them, right? So there's like this like interesting place for crypto to be, which I think like Ambient plays, which is like a credibly neutral version of the Chinese models, right? Like you start out being like, okay, like we're running Chinese models, but like eventually you don't want to have Chinese biases in your models, right? So you kind of like, if you get all of these machines on a giant network, you can train a new model, right? So it's like I think there's like this really interesting spot for crypto to be a credibly new, like much as Ethereum is like, we're credibly neutral money. I think there's a huge TAM to being like credibly neutral AI, because if people are like truly rejecting, they're like, okay, my choices are what? Like WorldCoin, it's like Sam Altman world. There's like the CCP and Alibaba. And then there's like, Trumpistan, right? Like these are all bad choices, right? Like that's part of why gold is ripping. That's why like Ethereum, like that's why we're even where we are in the crypto market cap. And so I think like there's like this underlying lack of faith in institutions, which has yet to appear in the AI space. Like everyone is like trusting. And so it's like, I think that's like, I don't think near term, that's what's going to cause everything to pump, but like 3 to 5 years out, like that's why we did this. Right?
Yeah, you're good. We just want to be super early to this. And like a funny thought exercise you can do is you can imagine yourself as an AI agent. Right now as a human, like ChatGPT is my go-to, right? Like I'm just going to see that brand and it's easy to use. And like, that's because I have like a human mindset. Like I have a human set of concerns. I'm like, oh, this is a big company. Like I can probably basically trust it. Like it's pretty easy to use. But you put yourself in the mind of an agent. And an agent is going to go after like the most trustless thing possible. Because they have, by definition, like no humanity, right? Like they don't have trust.
Yeah, dude, think of like your workflow as a user. Like you go onto Google, you see 3 ads on top of the page. Yeah. What do? You scroll down and you don't click the ads because the ads are trash. Now, if they start integrating advertising into ChatGPT, which they're definitely doing, then basically the default behavior of all the agents is going to be like clicking on the fucking ads, right? Yeah. Because it's going to be like economically determined. So it's like, okay, like right now everyone loves these models, but like they're not going to love them as much once they're like, hey man, like for some reason it's selling me Tide. Like I keep asking like for psychological advice and it's like selling me bleach, dude.
I mean, we've seen this story, right? Like it's like the enshittification of Facebook, like Google. Google ultimately decided that the best way to maximize engagement was to give you shitty search results because then you'd spend longer searching. And like the same thing is going to happen with models. And like if you're an agent that exists in the world and you're trying to act on someone's behalf in the future, like you're going to go for lowest enshittification systems and things that are credibly neutral, like what we're building, things that rely on collective intelligence, things that rely on trustless AI infrastructure are going to be the go-to for agents. And agents are going to be like the majority of the economy and the economic value. Yeah. And that's what I think, in some sense, people don't imagine. It's like we're going to live in this complex, human in the loop, agentified economy. And we have to build rails that are compatible with both things. And both of our projects are addressing these.
Absolutely fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. I wish we had more time to just continue to just pontificate on the way that this whole situation is evolving. But I feel like I certainly learned a lot and appreciate the understanding of your 2 protocols. So fascinating times now and wild times ahead.
Cool. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.